Okay, now let's go back to Durban and reconnect with my colleague, ENC senior reporter Dasen Tatia, who is our eye in the sky this afternoon over parts of Durban, eThekwini, that have been badly affected by the recent heavy rains and flooding. Just a short while ago, and from the visuals, I can see you still in that area, Dasen, where by Umlazi we're seeing submerged road, and that interchange, we're seeing how a car park with the vehicles has been affected, and also containers that have been swept away.
Definitely. In fact, I was trying to show you some of the industries a little bit earlier, but unfortunately the network gods were not on our side. You do know that KZN currently is suffering with some network challenges, so please bear with me, and I'll just give you a disclaimer now that if we do get disconnected, it is as a result of being in the air and as well as what we're experiencing right now with that type of congestion. What I was trying to show you here earlier was particularly the roads and the activity that is happening around it right now, because this is the main road that is going into Mlazi. What we also had noticed was that there are so many vehicles that are abandoned along the way here in the water. It really took a few passes before I really got a full extent of exactly what we are dealing with here. And when I look at it, and I think, you know, beyond the most tragic cost, which is the cost of human life that was lost during this tragedy, second to that, you also look at the industries and the impact on jobs. You look at the impact on those particular industries, many of them which were recovering from the unrest which we had spoken about before. Now they're having to deal with this type of serious infrastructure damage. I mean, the city has already warned citizens through its channels, through its press conference that it held earlier. I mean, eThekwini municipality saying that there needs to be a certain acceptance by residents to understand that it is going to take a while to sort all of this out. This is an image that I can't get over. This image of the N2, a road that we very often use to travel down south, and this is what it looks like now. I really had to look twice to see where the road began and where it ended and where all of this water was coming from. This looks like an ocean. One of the rescuers that I spoke to yesterday made a comment during the course of the night when I asked him, what does it look like out there? And he said to me, do you remember Cyclone Idai, which we had gone to together in 2019? And I said, yes. And he says, well, if you know what that looks like, then you'll have a sense of what it looks like outside right now. And initially I thought he was exaggerating and maybe being a little bit dramatic. But when I look at this and I look at these images, it brings back memories of what those Mozambique floods look like. I've never seen anything in Durban like this, and even though we've covered floods here many, many times before, this also bearing in mind, Pradan, that this is the next day. Think about what this looked like yesterday in those videos. Remember, you would have seen a lot of those amateur videos that were taken at the time. Remember what that looked like. Another concern right now, if you look at the number of people that are here, is a concern of looting. And that's something we've received reports on. There are a lot of items here. There are a lot of things that are accessible. In other parts towards the north, I'd received reports around trucks that were parked off, and those were coming under attack. People were trying to break into them and take those goods. There are similar concerns here and threats here with the type of containers that are here. Look at that. People are in the water over there. I think my colleague Letiwe Mpluli mentioned this earlier on when she was talking to you, but you really get a true sense of it now when you look at it from above. So there's a lot of activity happening here. Police presence very limited. They are stretched. They are stationed across the province. The search and rescue teams being front and center while they try to do their work. I think I counted about 2 police vans near that group of people that we saw on the entrance road to Mlazi that could have increased. But that's what now it appears to be the reason for all of the activity that we're seeing down there. I'm taking you back past that main road again, where you see that massive hole, that massive crater in the bridge. But now we get a sense of why people are really gathered here. The levels that they're going to. Take a look at this group that's down here in the water, risking their lives right now and making their way to those containers that are here closest to the side of the railway line. That's what is now concerning because of the depth of that water.
Yeah, and you're right to refer to Lethiwe Mdluli's report a bit earlier, Dasen. She was not far from there. She couldn't get too close. She was using her telephone, and connectivity was not playing ball with us there as well. We do understand, of course, there's a lot of connectivity issues with the mobile companies and mobile networks. MTN telling us about 500 of their sites have been affected. We can see now people accessing that warehouse, accessing some of those containers. We did see via Lethiwe Mdluli's device earlier, people actually floating a fridge on the water away, risking their lives into that water. We don't even know how deep that water is. So it's very dangerous scenes that we're seeing at the moment in that area. Dessen?
Yeah, Braden, I hope you got me back. I'm going to be making my way out of this area shortly, but yeah, just to pick up on what you're talking about, just the dangers that are associated with what's happening here right now. This is creating a second disaster, in a sense, a second threat over and above the torrential rain that we saw, because now you have people that are willingly jumping into the water. I can see, if my eyes are not betraying me here, I can see people carrying goods across from those containers now, making their way up to the railway line again. I mean, this is a situation that is difficult to manage. I mentioned to you before the shortage of police officers that I'm seeing down here, considering how resources are stretched across the province. This looks like it's a situation that could escalate if it's not brought under control, because once darkness falls, it's going to make these waters that much more dangerous. If you look at how they're even flowing right now, it seems like this is a second stage or a second part of the looting that we saw last year under completely different circumstances, Praden.
Yeah, so you're going to be heading off from that area. You've given us a view all the way from Umdloti, on the way Balite, Umhlanga, and all the way down to where you are there by Umlazi, by the old airport. I mean, the damage is pretty clear, still waterlogged. It's going to take days to clear. It is really a very tragic set of circumstances that we're witnessing this hour there around Umlazi. Dasen, are you still able to hear me before you leave the area?
That's right, Brad. No, I've still got you here. I managed to catch the last bit of that. I am heading back towards the north. We're probably going to land and refuel shortly, but that is the sense that we're getting. I've taken you all the way from the north, as you said, down to the south of at Umlazi here, and that should give you a sense, that should tell you how severe the damage is. But I think when you compare the two, between what we've seen now, I think the more recent threat is down here, considering of how people are risking their lives. We will be bringing you coverage from other areas. We obviously have a team that's on the ground as well, so we will be looking at other areas beyond what I've just shown you up here in the air. You know that time is limited, and also it takes time to get from one area to another, so we're trying to bring you as much of that as we can. We will keep you updated as we now head back towards the airport.
Yeah, Dasen, who's the cameraman who's been with you? Can you tell us?
The talented Kaniso Mdlalose is behind the lens here and is doing the most. He's been keeping a very stable live shot and trying to fight these network challenges. So we really are trying to capture as much of it as we can. As I said to you, it's not an everyday sight. It's a sad sight, especially for Durbanites and anyone wanting to visit the city. And I think that it's going to take a long time to fix this. And I hate that we're having this conversation just not long after we've had a conversation like this around the July unrest. The city can't afford this. The city knows and admits that it will take a long time to fix this, and right now it leaves residents suffering the most. They're going to be without services. They are the ones that are going to have clinics that are damaged, schools that are closed, the transport system completely damaged. The road networks have been severed at very strategic places. There's a lot of work to be done here. In the coming days, it will be very telling to see how those disaster management teams, how authorities deal with this beyond just the visits and beyond just the PR exercises. But what needs to happen now is very real work and getting the city moving again and recovering from what has just happened over the past few days.
A big shout out to you and the camera then, Mr. Mdlalose, for sterling work done this afternoon as you are making your way back up north, where you're going to be landing shortly from your eye in the sky to refuel. We're going to keep those live visuals for a while there, Dasen, as you're moving up. I guess we're seeing the N2 as you going up from that old airport area there by Umlazi, heading back north to land. So we are really grateful for that. Thank you to you and to Mr. Mjalose. Let's call him that. Let's give him a big shout out there. Salute to you guys. And of course, I know you're going to be wanting to go elsewhere later on. And on the ground, we don't see a lot of big presence of the police. I mean, they must be stretched all over the place. But sadly, we're seeing a group of people accessing containers in one area there by a railway line not far from Umlazi and getting all sorts of goods, including TVs that we saw a little bit earlier from a distance with Lethiwe Mdluli, and including what looked like a white fridge at some point. And as the sun sets, that water, you know, we don't really know how deep it is. It's dangerous. Hopefully people don't really risk that much. It's really not worth losing a life. And talking about loss of life, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Dasihle Zikalala, earlier talking to my colleagues Pamandla Goke on the ground in Durban, saying that at least 45 people are now known to have died. We'll get an update later on after 5 o'clock. The provincial executive set to hold an emergency meeting at which they'll decide what is the way forward. Among the considerations they will be discussing is the possibility of writing to national government, asking them to declare parts of KwaZulu-Natal, like the surrounds of Durban, eThekwini there, as a disaster area in order to be able to access certain resources that they can deal with the matter. Rebuilding is going to be a tough task because the forecast from the weather people is that there's more rain expected ahead of the Easter weekend in and around KwaZulu-Natal. I mean, the level of water that's sitting on the ground, as you can see from the live visuals of our eye in the sky, tells you really that things are really bad and they might get worse. But we'll have to wait and see what the provincial executive will decide is the action now in the short term, and how national government will react or respond to that. For now, if you've just joined us, we're bringing you live coverage from our eye in the sky and also from on the ground with Pamandla Goke and Lethiwe Mdluli about the devastation that's been faced by people in KwaZulu-Natal following the heavy rain since yesterday and the subsequent flooding that we have been bringing to you that we can see.